Hello, everybody. It is Puppetine. We are back. I know last week we went offline with The Walking Dead, but happy to say that I was able to stitch myself together and make my way over here. And to join me, as always, is the real Dr. Venkman. Dr. Venkman, hello. How are you today?
I'm doing wonderful.
Doing good. Okay. Well, today we are here to talk about volumes 13 and 14 of The Walking Dead. I sadly could not find another place in Alexandria to stuff myself, so I just came back to my office and said, we could just do it here. So, in these volumes, we basically have the settling, I suppose. And for settling in, they certainly get unsettled. Abraham, we have him afraid of going out in the world again. But whenever he does go out there, he kicks ass. And he takes charge of the construction team after they treat him basically like, the newbie around.
Yeah, and this is where you start to realize that the Walking Dead crew, the actual Rick's group, they are much more experienced what's going on, and especially when they put Abraham on construction at first, he's like, whatever, I don't really want to go out there. He goes out there, and he realized these four pricks only decide to protect themselves, leaving this girl to be attacked by zombies. So, and he ends up just like, well, screw this crap. He kills the zombies by himself, and they're like, what are you doing? You could have got us all. I'm like, well, you guys didn't care about the girl. And it goes into Holly, and this gets Holly to like get the hots for Abraham. Meanwhile, Abraham isn't a single guy. He's still a Rosita though.
Yes, he's with Rosita, but he is one hunk of a man, and he shows it in saving Holly. I have to admit. Later that day, Tobin, who used to basically be in charge of construction.
Well, not anymore, because what Abraham just did. So that Abraham gets his job, and he pissed.
Well, yeah, but Tobin goes to discuss it with Douglas later that day, and Tobin at first said that he wasn't happy about it, but as he's watched Abraham work forward, he realizes he's the best man for the job. He's better than him. He was going to just let that girl get killed, but Abraham goes in there, he saves people. And Douglas basically tries to comfort him and says that basically he just wants to make sure that he knows the situation. And which is understandable. This new group has just come in. They're still testing the waters, you could say, of their relationship. But that's pretty much the situation we're left with Tobin. We have Morgan and Michonne. They get together, and then they're like, we should not have gotten together. And so they run away, which is understandable because it was a mistake. With their places and their relationships, they just definitely weren't a match. What else happens? They're able to get their guns back. See, when we were left last time, I was very, very worried about the state of their place in Alexandria, because if they find out that they have the guns, what's going to happen? Could this paradise in this hellish world basically be the ending for them?
And it wasn't just that. You had Rick was starting to make waves with the one family, because the one guy, obviously he was an alcoholic, and he punched his son, not Carl, but his own son, and Carl's knew about this, and even Carl, I think at the moment, Carl came up and said, he needs to go, this guy. And Rick, and this is where Rick also started kind of flirting with his mom, and I forgot what her name is, but
So I don't think
Jesse.
flirting happens
Yes.
until after a certain event, which
Yes.
to.
But yeah, because Rick points out that this guy,
Pete.
Pete, yes, he's extremely violent and he's not good. He's a loose cannon. He could cause all of this, trouble. And we don't. And plus, Rick's like, we don't like wife beaters and all that stuff in our group. And whenever there's no part of that, especially what's going on now. And kind of like Douglas makes an excuse for it though. I noticed that Douglas is like, oh, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Just go on with your business.
Yeah. And as Douglas is telling him that, oh, you can't, he's the doctor, Rick is like, I'm going to do something about it. I don't care what kind of situation you had before. I'm telling you right now, things are changing. And his attitude, while understandable, it's very unsettling. Because you get this dark feeling within your within the pit of your stomach.
And with all this going on, as far as like you said, you got like Douglas is starting to realize that Rick is kind of a loose cannon, and the situation going on with Abraham and Tobin, and then like Douglas's son, it doesn't like and just the whole situation. They're like, you're getting a tense moment where like something's going to happen, and either Rick's group's going to get kicked out of Alexandria, or they're going to take over Alexandria. And you're almost like, I don't want Rick to take over Alexandria because, like, it's just typical Rick to come in, take over everything, like did with the prison. Look at how that ended badly.
Yep.
And it's each you read into this, in volume 13, it gets more and more tense because you're like, okay, something's finally going to happen. And when it finally does happen, it's like, okay, that's not so bad. I think. It's water under the bridge, right?
Well, basically what it comes to is this showdown, I suppose you could say. Rick goes to Pete's house, knocks on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Hey, Pete. Get your ass out of here. And but he doesn't even let him go out there. He barges in as soon as the door is open, and he starts beating on Pete.
One-handed Rick.
One-handed Rick is kicking this man's ass. He's taking a few hits himself. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's a fair fight, I suppose. Debatable.
I'll beat you with one arm behind my back because I can't do it with the front.
I will beat you with my nub.
And I still can't believe at this point they haven't given him like to put on his wrist yet, his nub. Because Rick's missing a hand on like the show. So I figured they would have done like Aaron, like almost right away they gave Aaron like a battle freaking gauntlet with a mace ball on it. I was like, why doesn't Rick have something like that, but for the hatchet though? Like,
Yeah. So, how to describe what happens next?
Well, if I recall, somebody goes through the bedroom or a living room window.
Yes, they basically end up throwing themselves through a window, and they're rolling out in the glass and in the grass, and they're still Rick's still beating on it.
Right.
And Douglas comes out and says, "Enough." But Rick is at that point.
Doesn't he? Is this where he pulls out the gun?
Mm-hmm. He pulls out the gun that he had hidden on him and points it at Douglas. That's a key point right there. And as it looks, as he's saying, I'm not going anywhere. If you think you're going to kick us out, that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Michonne hits him on the back of the head.
Yeah, Michonne betrays him. I was like, really, Michonne? We're going to play this game? Because if he would have kept going, I guess their excuse is like Rick would have been, they would all have been kicked out. I'm thinking, not really. these people are pushovers. If Rick has the guns, what are they gonna do? They're not used to a group like this coming in. They've been living behind a wall for the past 10 years or 8 years? How long it's been going on? 5
They
years.
had to build a wall.
They built the wall was actually built, I believe, the year one into the zombie apocalypse. For Alexandria did. So
That's what they said, basically.
yeah, and so these people they're kind of like, I would say they're like pacifists. They're like the people who live behind, they're keyboard warriors. They live behind their little computer and they throw insults, but they never really go out into the actual real world and and come across people. So they're not antisocial, but like they're not used to actually fighting for what they have. But the whole reason, I guess, the reason is, if I remember correctly, is that Michonne, it tells them, if we get in a fight with these people, innocent people are going to die. There's a lot of people in your families in here that are not fighters.
Actually, well, we'll get to what Michonne exactly says to Rick in a moment, because they take Rick and they hold him in this little room, and Douglas goes to talk to him, and he explains the Davidson situation.
Yes. If I remember correctly, if I recall, they say Davidson is the guy originally who designed the walls, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, the entire community was because of him.
Yes.
But the problem was
they turned on him.
He was getting to a point where he was getting drunk with his power in a way. And
which makes me question, because when I heard this, and then this is Douglas saying this, I'm thinking like, well, Douglas, you're kind of the same way. And Douglas, like you said, Douglas seems like he usurped him because he wanted the power himself.
That's fair, and I think that maybe that could happen.
Because didn't Douglas say he had an accident? The last guy had an accident?
No.
David.
He said that Davidson was banished. They put him outside the wall and said, "You're not welcome here anymore, Davidson." And he left him there to die. He said that he murdered him by leaving him out there to die with the zombies out there to eat him. But he says that he knows that Rick wasn't going to shoot him. He knows he's too smart. The only reason he pulled out the gun was because he felt threatened by Douglas, really, because his presence. This place is important to them. And Douglas says that they need people who realize this community is important. And the real question is whether or not I can trust to give you this. And he shows the gun. And sure enough, they do give the gun back to Rick. They come to an understanding. Rick goes out. When he runs into Michonne again, Michonne tells Rick to basically get his shit together.
Mm-hmm.
She's worried about her position there, clearly.
Well, it's a new thing. The kids are finally safe. They don't want to mess things up, and Rick, is acting like a wild man.
Yep, and they're in a civilized situation.
I gotta tell you, when I was reading this first time, I still stayed by Rick the whole entire time. I backed Rick's decisions. I didn't doubt him.
I don't know how exactly I felt reading that, but I'm glad of the situation that came afterwards, how they were able to settle it. Because I didn't want them to just be kicked out, or I didn't want
it was settled. Yes, it was settled. By Rick's hand.
Well,
not by Rick's, but certain events happen.
Andrea goes on a date with
Spencer,
Douglas's son,
and she's unable. And Spencer probably wants more, but Spencer can't because she's getting over Dale. Dale recently died.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So she kiss, and Spencer's getting frustrated You know, and I said it's just, and Spencer he's a little douche. You know, he seems like a spoiled little boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, so as it's a, so yeah, remember, yeah, so basically, so what happens is that during this dinner, they can look outside. And you see Pete walking by, and he has a knife.
A man with a knife.
Yeah, and yeah, so so it walks by, and
the town.
the town are having a little meeting, or not a little meeting, but Douglas and Heath, you know, were talking to each other, you know, you know, whether Scott was the original one, and when he hurt his leg in the very beginning, the guy they rescued, that brought him into, he ends up dying, and Heath wants him to have a funeral, and Douglas is like, no, he doesn't need one. You know, I would basically quite basic, or not one right now. You know, just, you know, everything's going on. And yeah, so then we find out that Pete goes up to Regina, you know, what I believe is Douglas's wife, and just slits her throat.
Well, because he wants to kill Rick, who's right there, and Regina tried to get in the way.
Yep.
And say, Pete, you got to stop this. Be the man I know you are.
He just goes.
Yep. And Douglas, at that moment, because Rick gets him down to the ground, pulls out his gun and aims it at him. Douglas tells him to shoot.
Yep.
Why is this a problem, you might ask? Why is it a problem that they're shooting, huh?
Because, well, as Abraham said, whenever you fire a shot, it draws in a herd. Eventually.
But worse, it can also draw in the
people.
living.
Yes.
So a group had basically been following Glenn and what's the other guy's name?
It's Glenn and
Sebastian?
I'm trying to remember what their name is.
No. Oh, crud. I feel like this guy actually does appear a lot in this, and he's the main one who was a friend with what was his name? The guy that died.
It's Heath.
Heath.
Yeah.
Yes. Heath and Glenn went out, and they saw a bunch of zombies in the city, and they saw this group. But they decided to be careful about it. Decided that they should take their time and do their best to remain unseen or heard. But not enough. As they were driving back home on their motorcycles, the group noticed, and they were following the trail. In that gunshot, that
leads into the door.
Beginning of an end. Well, at least partially.
Well, this, also we go. Key thing we put in to point out that Andrea's been taking her watch up in the bell tower as, you know, as a lookout, because she's a badass with a gun. Sorry, Maggie. You have nothing against Andrea in a comic form.
Well, Maggie in the comics is basically the mother right now. So, the next day they're having a funeral. They even have one for Pete. They mention him. Rick speaks for him.
With Gabriel Strokes giving Rick the floor. Rick's speech about people act differently during these hard times. He doesn't find who they are.
What a piece of shit. I just have to say that, because earlier in this book, and we didn't even talk about it.
Oh yeah, he tried. Gabriel has done his best. He's talking to Douglas, saying, "These are savage people. You should kick them out." And that's just one of the nails you're going to come across in this book.
Well, luckily, it's the only one that I get to see in these volumes.
Yeah, these volumes.
At the funeral, they're speaking, and suddenly they hear a gunshot outside. And at the gate, there's this bald guy who's standing there. And he's saying, little pig, let me in," like he's intimidating them.
Yeah, and this threw me off because knowing what happens in the show, it's just different. So I was like, wait, what's going on? Who are these people? Because the show added a other stuff. Like there's a place called the Terminus, where they went to before Alexandria when they were originally scattered from the prison, and they ran into a bunch of cannibals and all that stuff. But they had nothing to do with Gabriel though yet. So they threw a whole different like scenario in there. So then reading the comic, going back in this, I'm like, because going off what I had my knowledge from the show, I was like, okay, is this who I think it? I'm like, no, it's not. Okay, so I'm like, you teased me because I thought it was gonna be someone else. Like, and it's not. It's but these are a group of guys, and eventually ends up happening.
They have a sniper, and they have it aimed right at Rick. You see this little red light. It's not red because the comic's in black and white, but
it will
when
be
the color version comes out, you'll be able to see.
It'll be green. Who knows?
Well, I think they said red, but basically,
yeah.
Andrea is a badass.
Yep.
Andrea, whatever.
The guy's name is Derek. Of all places, the guy leading the scavengers group. His name's Derek.
Well, it's not going to matter because after Andrea shoots the sniper, she shoots Derek the doofus, right through the forehead. And understandably so. They easily defeat this other group.
And you guys got to pick up this comic book and look at the pictures. When they shoot stuff, you see the debris, the chunks.
Bloom. Yes.
And
exactly.
you see like the mist of like the blood and like just and like pieces of meat flying. I was like, oh my gosh.
We show you, but Netflix. YouTube is too scared to show you.
Yeah, we're also on Netflix too. Go check us out.
That's right. We're going on Netflix.
Yay!
Puppetine show. That's what it's going to be called. But afterwards, they burn their bodies, and after the others are buried, Douglas tells Rick that he's basically useless. Rick is the person that Alexandria needs. And that's where the first volume ends.
Yeah, Rick becomes the leader of Alexandria.
It happens so quickly.
And I gotta feel this is also because, well, Regina's dead. Yep. His wife. And now he's like, everything's going on. It's just like Rick's he has more experience and his people know what they're doing. So Douglas is like, I can't keep up with this. And and you made the right call. You told me about Pete the first time, we should have put him down. I should have listened to you. And instead, we gave him a second chance, and killed my wife. I'm responsible for my wife's death, and it's just where I think volume 14, you start seeing Douglas becoming an alcoholic, start drinking more.
I didn't notice that, but maybe because
you'll notice it
kind of useless.
You'll see him like you said, a certain event happens in volume 14 with Douglas, and you see him coming out of his house, and he. So I don't want to get to that part.
Yeah, that's pretty much the end of the book.
Yeah, but Rick.
How this book starts, we have
Rick. Yeah, we have Rick in the front.
Our favorite gay couple. They come back.
Yeah.
Aaron and Eric, I believe his name is.
Eric is on a horse. He's basically yelling that he's been stabbed, basically, and Rick and Andrea help him find Denise, who's with Heath, and Denise and Heath found.
Oh yeah.
Well.
Yeah, you saw it as her shirt was open, and she's like, "Okay, wait a minute."
It's like we're in the middle of something. Can you wait? Can you hold your blood?
She's quick. She's quick to her feet and says that. Get him in the house. We're going to treat him because she is a good doctor. She really is.
You know what though is Denise though in the show was just a person who was reading books, was not even a doctor.
Oh.
She was studying, certain things, and they, brought her in, and she was and Denise actually was a lesbian in the show. She had a thing for Tara.
That is a change.
Yeah, so it was, and I don't know what. Like I said, I don't know what Kirkman's reason for changing her is, her character and stuff. But like a lot of characters were changed. That's why I like reading the back issues when they released the color version. He tells about stories and crossing over to the TV and just things he regrets about doing in the book to certain characters. Because that's the one thing about I noticed in him a lot. Kirkman, he really cares about his characters, and like Walking Dead was his first big thing that took off. It was first a small indie thing, and it just grew tremendously. These books, and it just became like you had to have them. So many people wanted these books.
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely understand it because I'm in the second compendium right now, and I'm almost finished. And those books are huge. I don't have it on me to grab right now, but it is huge, sir. It is Puppetine sized.
Yep.
Okay, well, getting back to it, we have basically Aaron. After Eric is all patched up and he's okay, he goes to Douglas, who is hiding in his room in the dark, and he's like, "It's snowing. It's snowing." That's it. Aaron says that we don't need to go out anymore, and Douglas is at first shocked by this, but Aaron says that basically they have enough people to survive. Going out is just not worth it anymore because people aren't great. They really aren't. The people that remain in this world at this point, they're too far gone.
And yeah, I don't agree with that. Even in the book, without knowing the what happens later in the book, there's always good people. It's just that good people make bad decisions. That's my motto. I don't think everyone's completely evil. Everyone has a choice. People choose to do evil, or they choose to do good. And even evil people can find their way back. If you don't give them a path to come back to choose good, you're evil yourself for just like Rick just killing them.
We also have Morgan and Michonne basically patching things up because Morgan's saying, "Oh, my wife is dead." It's very sad, and yes, it is very sad. But he isn't exactly ready to just go jumping into things, but he would like to spend more time with Michonne. And we have Carl. Coral. He this poor kid. He is very grown. For an 8-year-old boy, at least he thinks he's 8 years old.
He looks older than the book now versus where when he first started off, he looked like 6 or 7. He looks like he's about 10 now.
Time wears you down, man.
And maybe he isn't. Maybe he only is still 9 or 8 or whatever. I don't know how many years it's been. At least it's been a year, right? So if he started off at 7, he's probably close to 9 now. And just the way he's acting, carries himself, he matured real fast. He realized, people who make mistakes die. So his personality makes him seem a lot older than he is. And obviously, there are some kids who do not like him for that. I think he's weird, or they don't like him, or And one of that persons is Pete's kid, because of what Rick did to his dad.
Yeah, and he actually, whenever he went to Carl in that night, because the mom brought him over and they wanted to stay with Rick.
Mm-hmm. Because you see, and I wouldn't really hate Carl for that. I'd be like, I'd pretend like, yeah, your dad's a piece of crap and all. My dad just died, and now your dad's in the same room. We're living in the same house with you. No, sorry.
But whenever the kid in the night went to Carl's room and he stood over him and said, "Your daddy killed my daddy," I was like, "Oh no, not another crazy kid."
I'm gonna kill you in your sleep.
But Carl is like, "Yeah, So, and the kid, then he's crying. He's saying, "Why is my daddy the bad guy and your daddy's the good guy?" And it is hard on the kid. It really is, and you have to understand that.
I can't remember. Did Carl have his gun on him this time under the pillow?
Yeah. At this point, they gave their guns pretty much back. And with the situation that happens with the wall, bum bum.
Dun dun.
Yeah, it is getting harder and harder for them to live because hordes of zombies are coming from all the gunfire within the last volume.
Yep.
You know, Abraham warned against this. But Abraham actually takes a group out, and they do get to kill some people, but a zombie bites the group.
And I explain what Abraham is doing on it. They're actually what they're doing is they're extending the wall because they're making it so it's farther out so they can include more buildings that have more homes inside the Alexandria, which is smart. To make it bigger and make it bigger.
Yeah, partially, but to Aaron's point earlier, they're at the point where they're comfortable that they really shouldn't be, that they should focus on the people that they have right now in the town they have right now, especially because of what happens next. A part of the wall is coming down because they did not pack it all with concrete like they were doing when they got
No, it wasn't even buried in the mud, was it?
No, it was just stuck in and packed with the dirt.
Yeah.
And guess what? Zombies don't care about how much effort they have to put in. They will push themselves all into World War Z kind of situation almost.
World War Z, they just climbed over.
Yeah. No, well, they did not do that.
These are just like when you they're like a flood. The way to best describe them. They go wherever they go, and they keep pressing against as they pile one against another, and another keeps coming, and eventually it knocked the wall down. This causes them to come in, and this is where we start getting like, Team Rick, go in the action! And then they're passing out the guns, and they go, pow, pow. It's like, and at this point, they're like, it seems so dire, like, it's like they're gonna end up like, oh, this is it. We're overran. We've never faced this many before, but then Rick's like, no, screw this. I worked too hard, to get this, where I wanted to. And this is where Rick shows that he's a man. And his group together to the last freaking walker is dead. They're left there.
Well, only after his new girlfriend and her son. And I didn't watch it. I've stopped watching the show at this point, but somehow I remember this scene.
Yes, from the show.
Where the kid gets got by the zombies as they're covered in ponchos of dead, rotting flesh.
They're trying to get across, and because in the show they're sneaking through, like because they weren't gonna fight out, they were gonna try and sneak out and cover. And the little kid's like walking, he's like, "Mommy," I'm like, "Shut up," and he goes, "Mommy," I'm like, and then he gets eaten out, and then she can't leave him. She gets eaten too. I'm thinking like, you little freaking kid, they should have just camped him. I don't worry, he just killed him and just dragged her with her. Little kid is useless. This kid does kind of a similar thing, and
is where
Jesse won't leave him.
Yep.
Jesse will not leave him. She's like, he's my only boy. I can't leave him. And
she's holding on to Carl.
Yeah.
Holding on to the hand, and Rick is like, I'm sorry, and cuts off her hand as she's gripping on to Carl.
Yeah.
Man, that was brutal.
Meanwhile, Douglas, yes.
Been basically holding a gun to his head. I can do this. No, he couldn't do it. He goes out there and starts shooting at random to draw the zombies towards him. And he gets got, but he's firing randomly all in the air.
He gets got? What is this language?
He gets got. He gets got. Indeed. It's a thing.
He was bitten twice, but he wasn't shy.
No. Well, no, he gets torn apart.
And this is brutal. seeing these things, like they just actually show it.
And we get to see Rick, who turns back to look at Carl, who as they're walking. Right through the eye. It's gone. It's blasted out of there.
Yeah, because he misfires and it hits Carl in the right here.
Douglas was firing all over the place. It wasn't a misfire. He was just firing. And
yeah. Carl gets hit. They rush him over to Denise. Denise basically like they hold him down and and then meanwhile Rick has to go back up. Rick can't go in there because Rick has to keep fighting.
Yep. And Abraham and Rosita and pretty much everybody all come out, and they aren't using guns.
Yep.
Using only melee weapons. Using anything they have. Hell, if what was his name? Oh no!
Spencer?
No.
Douglas?
No.
Denise?
Way back with Michonne.
Morgan?
Wrong guy. Morgan's dead. That's a key thing to mention. Morgan dies because he gets bitten, but it's very sad. But he and Carl have a moment, and he basically talks to his son through Carl. But yeah, that's very sad.
Are you talking about Abraham?
It basically doesn't matter because they are able, using only the knives and hammers, things that they all have, they defeat zombie swarm.
What pissed me off is that we even see more Spencer. He's like, you and Andrea, and then they'll leave together. Everyone else just die. And Andrea punches him and storms away, ending their brief friendship.
Because he's a little bitch.
Yep.
Whenever they get back in town, they're saying, oh no, this is worse than we thought. They're so spread out that I'm able to hit them off one by one. But they realize, no, they handled the swarm.
Oh.
And instantly, Rick talks about how...
Oh, you're talking about... Okay, that's the guy you're talking about. There's Rosita, Eugene, Aaron, and I believe was it Eric? Also, yeah, it helped Rick and Michonne during the fight. Abraham helps out too, I believe, as well.
Yes. But I was talking about Andrea and Glenn. Whenever they get back, they're stunned because they think at first, as they're traveling through the opening in the wall, that the zombies have taken over so completely that they're all over the place. But no. Rick and everybody in town pretty much rally up and they defeat the zombie swarm.
This is where Rick realized that we used to be afraid of herds, but now we know how to deal with them.
Yep.
As long as you have a group, as long as everybody works together, you can take them out. It's not what is it that people get scared and they get overwhelmed, and they don't think. And that's what causes people to die, and that's true with any situation. So that's how it ends. Basically, this volume 14 ends with
Rick telling Carl that they're going to rebuild and they're going to have a new world, and he wants to show Carl that new world.
He's sitting by Carl's bedside. Carl's just laying there, and he's just telling him, "It's like, yeah, it's like I need to wake up, because I got so much planned for this. You're gonna, we're gonna do great things with this town.
We're going to make Alexandria great again.
Yes, we're gonna build a better Alexandria."
We're going to build a wall.
We may have taken some damage, but we're going to build again. We're going to build it back better.
But you're right. That is where it ends. In this book, the reason why whenever we do these reviews, we're doing a retelling of the events.
Oh, my gosh.
These events we watch, and they shock and they move us. And it's so important.
At the end of this book, you can't tell me that after that events of this, you don't want to continue reading, see what's going to go on, because now Rick's in charge. They just, all the zombies are, laying there. Everyone's covered in guts and stuff. And this is like, holy crap! They're like we've been to hell and back. Now we're going to do what now? And then imagine if you were in the last. This is your last issue you read, like at the time when it was coming out, and you had to you wait a month. Sometimes
I cannot imagine
or not even a month. Sometimes I think sometimes these books were like 2 months, if I recall correctly. They weren't exactly bi-weekly or every month.
I would hate it.
Yeah,
absolutely hate it. But I'm so glad that we've gone through this series. I'm almost done with that second compendium. After this next video, I will be done. And that's pretty much halfway there.
Right?
Almost to the end.
Those are like 1,000 pages each book, or each compendium.
Yeah, no, it's huge, and there's a ton. But I go through it like I'm drinking water, and I've been through the desert all damn day. It's really, really good.
And I want you, after we're done with this, I want you to go start watching the series with me.
Well, maybe we'll see.
Because I want you to complain and see. I'm like, well, why did you do this? And like, this is cool. Because there are still stuff I like in the show versus what happened in the comic. But there's opposite. Exactly what happened in the comic. I like better than the show. I like, because to me it's like seeing Kirkman's pretty much. I don't know if he's still how much involved he is with the show, producing or script writing and stuff. The ideas. If he even gives it, if they even get his consent, or not consent, but they ask him hey, should we do this? And his input. A lot of times when a show like this is based off someone writer, they don't even care about him anymore. After the first season, they do what they want to do. But they are this is the final season of Walking Dead, and they are tying it into the book still. Mm-hmm. Even though they added something new, which is great, because I like when they add something new versus when you just change something because you don't like the way they have in the book.
Yeah. I'm interested. I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. I hear some people praise the show, but they've never read the books.
This is the show I would say this is a show you're better off binge watching than versus watching every Sunday, because like I said, certain events in this show drag out forever because they add stupid scenes or stupid things that were not in the book just to drag it out. Because certain things they have to if it's a story arc, they have to drag it out because they want ratings. They want to keep people glued to their seats. The more they do it, so they have to fill out so many episodes. So they'll give you a filler episode, and I'm like, oh my gosh, because that's how I watched from season 3. After I kind of stopped after when Lori died. I was like, really? What was the whole point of them getting together and her having a baby, and he's like, I'll take care of it, and then just to have her die after childbirth, there's stuff that Judy survives. That was the major thing from the comics. I was like, okay, so now he's got Judy and Carl, and I was like, but after that I quit. I went back about when they got to season 8 was coming out. So I watched 5 seasons on Netflix, which really helped me out because I was like, once I started watching as a binge watching, it didn't seem like it dragged out so long. And plus I could skip the freaking episode that I want to watch. I could just fast forward through.
That is fair.
And that's how I feel about when you binge read a comic like this. It's so much easier to grasp the story. Even though the story's it's designed to be read it once a day or once a week,
Yeah,
once a month,
it was coming out in a certain way, and whenever you're reading the compendium, it's so hard to make out where the issue ends because it moves so smoothly together.
Yep.
And
it's one giant story. He just took a chunk each month. You saw that each issue was an incomplete issue. You're in the middle of a story, and you kept giving small tidbits. Here's 10 minutes of the show. It's not 10 minutes of the show. So
I'm interested in how the show does things. I really am. But there's a key point that I know gets lost along the way. The Walking Dead is the story of Rick Grimes. I've always felt that way as I've been reading this.
But anything with Rick, though, like I said, that's not until the later seasons. No, that was not, that wasn't Kirkman's choice. That wasn't the show's choice. That was the actor's choice to leave the show because he wanted time with family.
Yeah,
now
I understand that.
But they are talking about doing spin-offs, apparently movies to say where Rick is gone.
I might be interested in that, but the only problem is I don't know exactly how he leaves the show, but I know he does it in a way that he's not dead. If he's gone and he's not with his daughter, that just doesn't feel right to me. Like, his daughter's dead in the books. It's absolutely understandable that if he disappeared, who does he have left? Carl. That's all he has left. And if he doesn't have Carl, his life is everything.
Like I said, the show was a totally different story after Andrew Lincoln departs from the show. They do have.
Well, I imagine it would be.
They do have other characters though that were in the books. They're popping up in the show.
That's fair. And if The Walking Dead ever gets like a full-on comic spin-off, like a spin-off series
of the series of the show.
No. Of the book, The Walking Dead.
I've talked about this with other people. I don't think Kirkman's going to come back to The Walking Dead. I think he's content. He said in interviews before, he said, I did what I wanted to do and I'm done. Told their story. My story's done. And because he's been doing other comedies, like Oblivion Song is one he's been doing, but that one's it's ending. And I think it's because no one just doesn't care for it as much as they care for Walking Dead. I tried reading it. He does his famous time jump, like he likes to do in the events. He likes it just to get the story going. He does that, and he's also writing Firepower. That's the other book he's doing. So as far as him coming back to Walking Dead, it would be great, but I mean, I don't know if people would really want to read it though.
Maybe it just became a chore.
I don't know. Like I said, he ended the book. He ended it. He already gave it an ending, and he'd have to do a spinoff. It happens meanwhile outside of this, like they did with Fear the Walking Dead. That'd have to be a comic book I want to read. Fear the Walking Dead, where it starts.
See, the only problem is, and this is after reading the books, they have like questions that are sent in to Kirkman, and he answers them. Early days, in the early days, we're talking when right after Shane had died. Somebody wrote him saying, I want 600 issues of this. And he said, 600? I want 1,000 in reply.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe he realized that, no, I don't want that. Maybe as he's gone along, he loves these characters. But
like you said,
die.
As you get closer to the end of the book, he reveals in the back. He's like, I originally when I was writing this stuff, he's like, I always knew what I wanted to do in the end, how I wanted it to end. And then when I started getting to a certain event in the book, I realized I gotta end it soon because because the way it's set up. It's because certain events lead into the way he ends it. So he got to that point where he's like, that's what I realized. Like, I was like, the book's ending. Of course, though, he was a dick and didn't tell anybody. Did not tell anybody that he was going on. He was ending the book. He just let people believe that was going on, which I still think was like jerk move on his part. Being a fan,
jerk move. It's one of the best surprises in a comic book series in years.
Surprise! Screwed you over because everybody thought there was going to be.
I don't think he saw it as screwing people over. He saw it as him ending his book.
Well, yeah, but comic book shops, as far as I knew, because they had scheduled one, there was supposed to be another issue in their preview book. They were advertising another issue, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, wait, you didn't tell us this whole entire time? We're expecting, otherwise they would have sold it much bigger. They would have done events, they would, But yeah, you didn't tell me
I'm
about it.
aware, and I absolutely understand comic book shop owners being frustrated by that. At the same time, huge props to Kirkman for being able to keep that secret.
Was it?
Because
It's not just
doing
him.
that,
It's not him. It's someone who he works with. I think it was he's still working with Charlie Aldred towards the end of the book. I'm not sure who it was, but
not sure. But I'm pretty sure we've reached the end. These 2 volumes were awesome, and I'm excited to keep going. And we're definitely going to ride this the whole way through. I feel it in my non-bones.
it's Leader Rick of Alexandria.
In my stuffing, I feel it. So, everybody, thank you. If you lasted this long, props to you. Thank you so much for watching. We hope to see you again next time when we discuss The Walking
Oh, Walking Dead? Okay. You were paused there.
Dead.